All right, guys. Welcome back to the channel. I apologize for the hiatus. It's been a rough couple of weeks. We had to put our family dog down on the day after Christmas. Molly. You'll see a picture of her at the end of this video. She was an awesome dog. If you're on my Instagram or my Facebook, I wrote a little eulogy for her. She, I think a lot of people are very attached to their pets. I don't think I'm unique in that regard, but she was an awesome dog. She came to work with me every day for the better part of the decade that she was alive, and she got really sick. She got kind of sick a couple weeks ago, and then she got really sick like right before Christmas, and we spent all day Christmas Eve at the emergency vet waiting, and then they discharged her. We went home. We thought she was gonna be better. She seemed like she was maybe doing a little bit better. And then Christmas Day, she was okay. And then the night of Christmas evening, she kind of went downhill. And then we spent all day again the day after Christmas at the emergency vet. And we ended up having to put her down. So it was just kind of an emotionally wrenching experience. I really didn't feel like making videos last week or this week. Just felt like I should share that with you guys. All right. Hello, Casey here. Welcome back to the channel. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, everyone. This is the upfitting on the Harbor Freight bead roller. This process will also be applicable to an Eastwood bead roller and any other of these sheet metal frame bead rollers, the economy versions that you see advertised. I think the Harbor Freight is actually discontinued now, but yeah, this is the one that everybody uses, and it says it has a 18 gauge capacity, but I think it's baloney. Let me show you why. All right, so this is the Central Machinery item code 34104 bead roller kit, also sometimes called a sheet metal fabrication kit. It's a 18 1/4 inch throat depth bead roller that's basically built on a 3/8 inch steel plate frame. And the reason that these have so much trouble is, look at this. See how much that moves? And this is just 2 fingers applying the pressure that I can apply with the strength in my wrist. Completely unacceptable. As you can imagine, as you feed a piece of sheet metal through, it's gonna deflect and you're gonna lose all your pressure. You're not gonna cut a straight line. I mean, that is bonkers. This is the kit basically as you would get it from Harbor Freight. I imagine the Eastwood kit is very similar. Basically, you get the roller frame, a crank handle, a pair of shearing dies, and then you also get 3 bead dies going from 1/4 to 3/8 to 1/2 inch, and then 3 steps, which look like they're about 1/8, 1/4, and maybe 3/8, I guess. I guess it's a little bit further than that. Anyway, you're buying this for the gears and the dies, and I guess for the shafts, although they could be easily fabricated. Just about everything else about this roller kit needs addressing. So let me show you how I'm going to tackle this project. All right, so this is the back of the bead roller frame. And as you can see, it's just a plain sheet of, I believe I measured it out at 5/16 of an inch. Might be, I don't think it's 3/8. I think it's 5/16. It's just a little bit more than 1/4. And as you can see, all this real estate on the back gives us plenty of room to work. Basically, we need the kit to not deflect in this manner here, up and down, or I guess side to side as this thing is mounted. So what I'm gonna do, I've come up with a couple pieces of angle iron that are gonna weld along the frame. This is 2 inch by 1/4 angle iron. And basically what it allows, it's small enough that I can run a full weld bead all the way down both sides. And then I've added a 3rd piece at the end, which I've chamfered these pieces to have a nice high penetration weld once this vertical piece is welded in place. So the vertical piece is gonna you know, give these beams something to tie into. And these will completely stop any up and down deflection in this plane, because not only will they strengthen each channel of the roller itself, but this piece, once they're welded in place, there won't be any deflection to be had. Now, I am a little bit concerned about warpage. I've heard that some people have had issues with warping when they've done this modification. So one of the things I'm going to do after I basically disassemble this thing, get all the powder coating off of it, I'm going to weld a square tube across the jaws on the front side, hopefully to hold it in place. And then I'm going to clamp the whole thing to my work table, which is not really thick enough to keep it straight. But I think with the jaws welded in a fixed position and everything clamped down, and then I'm going to move around a lot as I'm welding it, I think it should be okay. So first things first, I got to tear this thing down and then get the paint off of it. All right, so the hardware on this thing is just 19 millimeter. And basically with the shafts down on my table, I think I can just loosen all the bolts and pull the frame away. I'm gonna replace this hardware most likely, as it is all rusty already just from sitting in the box. To be fair, I have had this sitting in the box for a little while. It's not like it's brand spanking new off the shelf and rusty. Alright, so there we go. So now I just got to take the paint off of the frame. All right, folks, this is a little segment that I like to call What's Casey Drinking? And this week I'm not actually enjoying a beverage in the shop, but I've enjoyed this one over the weekend. This is North Coast Brewing Company's Brother Thelonious Belgian style Abbey Ale. North Coast, famous for their Scrimshaw, Downtown Brown, beers that you've probably seen in your local stores, but maybe not the Thelonious. This Belgian style Abbey is big, thick, heavy, drinks more like a bottle of wine than it does a beer, but man, is it delicious. Enjoy it at cellar temp is the perfect temp, not super cold, so it opens up and you get all the flavor. Inspired by Thelonious Monk, a jazz musician, and in his honor, the North Coast Brewing Company makes a donation to the Monterey Jazz Festival's education programs with every bottle and keg sold, so you can feel good drinking this beer. I like it because it pairs pretty well with, like, you know, the holiday type fare. We did prime rib for Christmas. We did fried chicken on New Year's Day. Go well with either of those. Great beer, one of my all-time favorites. North Coast Brewing Company up in Fort Bragg, California is one of my favorite breweries. We're lucky to have a lot of really good breweries in Northern California. They're one of my favorites. Anyway, that's all I know. Oh, I cheers you, but it's too late. All right, so here we are with the bead roller frame all cleaned up, the angle iron mitered and set into place. So this is how we're going to weld our reinforcements. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to weld across the jaws just a piece of scrap to kind of keep things from moving around. I'm going to clamp this whole assembly to my welding table just to help keep it straight. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to tack. We'll have to do this bracket first. We'll tack it in 4 places. And then we'll weld beads. And then we'll lay these 2 brackets in place and we'll tack them probably in 5 places and then start welding them in place. It's going to move around a lot to keep from warping the panel. And then we'll cut our piece across the jaws out, and hopefully when all is said and done, this thing is still as straight as it is now, which is pretty straight. right, guys, so I warped the hell out of this thing. Let me show you. All right, so first of all, don't mind my my discoloration. I had this whole thing chalked up in the press. Boy, you can really see it there through the camera, can't you? I had this whole thing chalked up in the press, and I pressed it out flat, and I was trying to use MAP gas to relieve it, basically, to see if I could get it to relax in position. Yeah, so it's not from like getting it too hot. It's a design flaw. Let me show you. It's a design flaw, and that angle is gonna put load on my shafts. Let me show you why this went so wrong. So what I should have done is I should have laid these angle iron braces from one end all the way to the other. And, you know, obviously I've got some potential interference here with the bolts, but I could have basically left one leg long and brought it all the way to the edge, and then cut the other leg short, and then welded my vertical brace basically just in between these two reinforcements. I think, you know, my idea to go with the triangle over a piece of square tubing is sound from an engineering standpoint. But basically by putting this brace, this vertical brace here, and welding it in place, and then laying these long horizontal braces in, having the whole thing clamped to the table, welding them all together. Basically, anytime you weld on either side of your weldment, it's going to shrink. So, you know, if it's like this, basically you have two beads going this way, they're going to pull up together. So by welding this in, it put tension on this piece. It pulled this end up and it pulled this end up. But having the whole thing clamped and then laying this big long brace in place and welding it clamped meant that all that tension of trying to pull this side up was all transferred into this side. So it's got just a big curve starting from here and then getting even worse after this weld, because it's all this stored tension of this big long run in this end piece. So how am I going to fix this? Well, I have an idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with a 4.5 inch cutoff disc, and I'm going to cut this weld. I'll just slice all the way through it. And this thing's probably going to pop when I get to the end of it because it's under a lot of tension. But then what I'm going to do is I've got some big 1-inch arbor plates on my press. I'm going to clamp the arbor plates to this thing with a bunch of clamps and get this 5/16 bead roller frame to lay back flat. And I'm going to have a big old gap. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to basically box the ends of this piece of angle iron with a leg that goes all the way out to the edge of the frame. That's gonna hold everything flat and keep this end from flexing back up. And then I'm going to come and I'm going to weld and just fill that big gap with weld. It's probably going to take 2 or 3 passes, and it's going to be ugly, but it should be flat and it should work. So yeah, there is an easier way to do this. I could just throw these blocks in my mill and mill the corresponding angle. It's about 2 degrees into the block, and then take a corresponding amount off of the other side. But I'm going to try to fix it the right way. And you're going to have to stay tuned to see if I'm successful. Anyway, I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Am I a bonehead? Probably. Hit that like button if you liked what you saw in this week's video. Hit the dislike button if you didn't. But remember, I'm honest when I screw up, and I own it. So go easy on me, right? Anyway, if you feel like throwing me a subscription, please do that, because that helps me keep the content coming week after week. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this week, you guys. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. We're up to 915 subscribers now, well on our way to 1,000. I am stoked. Even with the hiatus, people keep subscribing to the channel, so I feel truly blessed. Anyway, thank you. I'll see you next week with the resolution to my Harbor Freight bead roller saga. Does he fix it? You gotta watch next week to find out. All right, see you guys.